Welcome to TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG, your favourite Formula 1 podcast produced by a British biased bloke with a massive Swede full of very questionable wheel knowledge. Broadcast live on YouTube and after the fact on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We have a good old natter about each and every Grand Prix of the season. My name's Tommo, let's talk about it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you find yourself on this beautiful planet called Earth. My name's Tommo and we're here to talk about the 2025 Bahrain Grand Prix. Thank you for joining me. Outbreaker Carl, Awkward MMA Michael, Christopher, Attle, Aviator Tank, Yankee Carl, Yeaman, and the rest of you live on YouTube. Bahrain talk, middle of a triple header, just coming off the back of a stinker in Suzuka. Surely, the only way is up. I'm very, very confident this Bahrain Grand Prix is going to be way better than Suzuka. Obviously, we did test here pre-season, so we do have something to go on in terms of, you know, looking at car performance from those tests. However, the weather conditions are probably going to be very, very different. It was pretty cold in Bahrain in pre-season tests, whereas it's not going to be so cold right now. Not this time of year in Bahrain. No, not at all. So you have to take that very, very much into account when reflecting too much. However, we're going to go through it. We're going to go over the, you know, what happened last year and look at the track and give my thoughts and feelings and, of course, bangers and clangers predictions. So far, I'm 3-3 for predicting race winners. Lando, Oscar, and then Max. Can I make it 4 in a row? Well, let's see, shall we? Let's see. Welcome, Ahmed from Bahrain as well. Lovely. Get down there. Watch the race, Ahmed. Get on it, fella. Get on it. Right. I'm excited for this one. Bahrain as a circuit, I do enjoy it. I wanted to start a little poll, actually. Thoughts on the Bahrain International Circuit. Do you think it is a banger? Is it a clanger? Because it's been about for a while. When was the first Bahrain Grand Prix? That's a question for you, chat. When was the first Bahrain Grand Prix? Because I feel like it's been about a while, and it's kind of it reminds me in some ways of Red Bull Ring, just in terms of the layout. Obviously, it doesn't have anywhere near the undulation, but in terms of kind of track layout, reminds me a lot of Red Bull Ring. I like it. 2004 was it? Jeez, really? 2004? Bro, that's crazy. I didn't actually think it was around for that long. That's wild. 2004. Over 20 years of the Bahrain Grand Prix. No wonder it feels pretty set in stone, considering it's more than half my lifetime it's been on the grid. So, yeah, what do you think? Small bang, 70% of the vote is the biggest. And 27% banger. So, yeah, very, very positive sentiment. Very, very, I mean, pretty much all of you, bar like 5%, have positive sentiment of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Now, of course, where we go testing in a venue, we saw this at Spain and Catalonia for years. When you test at a venue, it can somewhat spoil the race a bit because the teams have so much data, so much understanding of this track that, you know, it takes away that degree of unknown. However, we are going into the final year of a regulation cycle. Some teams pushing more than others in terms of car development. Like I said before, the temperature is going to be very, very, very different. If it was another cold weekend, I'd expect the Mercedes to be up there. It's not going to be like that this weekend. In fact, let me just quickly check the weather Bahrain. What's Google saying? Yeah, Google's saying on Sunday, highs of 32, lows of 24 degrees. And that's Celsius to you Americans who use Fahrenheit for some reason. I don't get that. I really don't get it. But yeah, Bahrain. Okay, we've had a few more votes for Mild Clank. Maybe 10% of you have negative sentiment towards Bahrain and 90% of you have positive sentiment. Bahrain should have a sprint on the short layout, David. You know what? That would be cool. If they could utilize, because not all tracks have multiple layouts, but we know that Bahrain does because we had the Sakir Grand Prix in 2020. Yeah, they could do that. It's a good point, David. I like that. I think that's a shout, you know. It makes the sprint a little bit less of a spoiler. I know it's not so much of a spoiler because of part Ferme changes than it used to be, but that's a phenomenal shout, David. I love that. Get on it, David. Let's submit this one. Sprint around the oval, the Bahrain Oval. Love to see it. Now, 5.4 kilometers long. Certainly, kind of probably in the middle, maybe towards the lower end in terms of overall track length. Shanghai, they're all running within about 400 meters of one another. The racetracks we've seen so far, and overtaking opportunities are aplenty around Bahrain, certainly more than Suzuka. Turn 1, obviously a big lunge down there. Turn 4 as well, where you get the DRS on both the back straight and that second straight as well. And even in the tricky kind of middle sector going into turn 10, we saw Fernando break Lewis's ankles in 2020. When was it? 22 or 23? Was it 23, wasn't it? Where Fernando made that unbelievable move on Lewis. Yeah, it was 23. Bahrain's sick. Bahrain is great. We're going to have much, much higher tire degradation because of the temperature, because the fact this is in a desert, so you get sand blown on. The surface is not going to be as buttery smooth as it was in Suzuka. We should be seeing 2 stops, I imagine, for most teams. I'm not actually sure. Have Pirelli confirmed what tyre range they're using? I should have checked this beforehand. Because Pirelli, usually they post it on Twitter to Pirelli. Let's have a little butch at Pirelli Motorsport. For round 6 Miami, that's not interesting to me. I want to know where it is Bahrain. Okay, yeah, so it's the hardest range again in Sakira. It's the C1, C2 and C3 this weekend, the same range as Suzuka, but this is a high degradation track. Suzuka typically is, but again, the re-tarmacking of it meant that it wasn't so much, and definitely big oopsie from Pirelli on that front. It's the same compound range as last weekend, but we shouldn't have the same issue with everyone being able to push flat out and there being no tyre offset between teams. So I'm hopeful Pirelli haven't made the same blunder again, right? Please, I beg. Bahrain's great. Not much elevation change, but you don't necessarily need that when you've got a format that is so open to overtaking being done and completed. Bahrain's a great track. Bahrain is a really, really good track. And it's a good challenge for the drivers as well, because the walls are, in places, fairly close. We've seen a fair share of people going off at turn 16, 17, right at the end of the lap, trying to push right to the edge. Obviously, we'll remember, what was it? Albon, I remember, crashed there when he was at Red Bull. Great. Jack Aitken as well, when in 2020 Sakir, which then meant basically the knock-on effect of that was that the guy who's George obviously went into the Mercedes to replace Lewis. Jack replaced George in the Williams, but then Jack crashed and then George didn't win the race. The butterfly effect of all that was pretty crazy. I like Bahrain. I've got a lot of time for Bahrain. But yeah, last time out, and this was obviously right at the start of last season. It was the opening race of 2024. It was completely dominated by Max Verstappen, and Checo got P2. He was 22 seconds behind Max, which just goes to show where this Red Bull car was at the start of 2024 compared to where it is right now. Even though you were 22 seconds behind your teammate, you still finished P2, which is kind of crazy. And Carlos Sainz had a drive. Obviously, this was the first race of the season. Fresh news of Lewis replacing him for 2025. And Carlos, driving like a man to prove a point, was putting some moves on Charles Leclerc, was definitely the stronger driver of the weekend out of the two, and putting a top tier performance. Can he do the same in Williams? He went quickest on testing day 2. Did Carlos in his Williams this year? Unbelievable drive from Carlos Sainz to get P3 in the end. But yeah, the Red Bulls absolutely cleaned up. Oh, and Charles had brake issues. He did. It's fair. But it was still great. It was still great from Carlos, okay? It was still great from Carlos. Bosch. So driver standings. Where do we sit right now after 3 weekends of 24? Lando just 1 point ahead of Max. Just 1 point ahead of Max. Now, you might have seen in the thumbnail, I'm sure you have seen, McLaren must win. It's half-titled, this one. They really do have to win. You look at their pace in Bahrain testing, Their long run pace was exceptional. Red Bull haven't changed their car. Ferrari, small changes coming in. Mercedes, small changes coming in as well. But ultimately, you would absolutely expect that McLaren are going to have a race pace advantage here this weekend. A clear and obvious race pace advantage this weekend. In line with kind of what they had, I think, in Australia before the heavens opened, because they were miles clear before it started raining. So they've got to take this. They've got to win, whether it's with Lando, whether it's with Oscar. They have to win. They have to get a 1-2, because this is an open goal, right? Because that car clearly has an advantage. Red Bull will, you would think, with their upgrade, whether it comes in Miami or Imola, and then the flexi wing changes round 9, you got to think that it's only a matter of time before Red Bull give Max a car that is closer to the McLaren than it is now, over race pace, without, again, crazy weather or whatever, and no tyre deg. They need to capitalise on these opportunities, because it's not going to last all season. Max will be there for the fight, and Max will take each and every opportunity that comes. Is the colours off of Bortoletto? Oh, yeah. I forgot to change that. Never mind. Never mind. Gabriel, he's managed by Fernando Alonso, so he's essentially Aston Martin anyway. Doesn't matter. Come on. It's fine. So, yeah, the driver standings, 1 point Lando ahead of Max. Oscar, 13 points behind his teammates. And then George Russell, another 4 points further back from Oscar Piastri. I'm not expecting much from Mercedes this weekend. The higher temps shouldn't work with their car. However, they've been super consistent this year, and George hasn't really put a foot wrong, apart from trying to be a bit smart with tyre prep. And Kimi Antonelli, I tell you what, obviously he had that damage in China, which curtailed his race performance, but he was flying in Suzuka. He was doing absolute bits. That team radio when Kimi was like, I'm pushing flat out, and then Bono was like, good lad. That warmed my soul. It was like Bono giving Kimi a little pat on the head. Good lad. Proud of you. Do I think George Russell is a title contender? Ultimately, I don't think Mercedes are going to be able to give him enough. I think he will consistently finish up there. But where you've got so many protagonists in this season, both McLaren drivers, Max, George, the Ferraris, you expect, Lewis has been talking about a deficit on his car, and you would expect Ferrari going to find something. They're going to bring a change to the car, / multiple changes to the car. And if it doesn't do enough, then they're just going to have to can it and accept that this year's not their year. But I'm hopeful. I'm wishfully thinking that Ferrari will find something, I mean, George will easily be top 6 this year. Yeah, absolutely. He will deliver the points when they're on offer. So those are the driver standings. And these are the team standings, which I did update the colours on. So, Womo moments on that one. McLaren, 111 points. Look, constructors really should be a sure thing for McLaren, given the level both drivers are driving at, where Lando and Oscar, I think, are driving very close to the ceiling of their cars. They're making certainly more errors than Max does, because Max is the best driver in F1, of course. But I mean, given the car advantage they're starting the season with, given the lack of incentive for teams to bring upgrades throughout the entire season because of 2026, this should be a done thing. It should be a done deal. How they obviously manage these two, and we saw a little bit of there's a few conspiracy theories knocking about, and I've certainly got my own after Japan. How they manage it throughout the course of the season remains to be seen. But I mean, this should be a done deal, shouldn't it, really, from a constructor's point of view? Absolutely. Verstappen just carrying in P3 all on his own. I hope Yuki has a good weekend in Bahrain. I don't know, though. I don't know. I'm not overly convinced he will, to be honest. However, Yuki's not the driver with the most pressure on him this weekend. Not at all. Also, yeah, if anyone saw the stream I did yesterday about Cape Town, if you didn't, go watch it after this, because there's updated Cape Town Grand Prix proposal map, and I wanted to go over it. It's just like a half-hour stream. But obviously I was in Cape Town this time last year, so, you know, bias alert. What can I say? What can I say? Okay. Bangers and clangers time. 3 out of 3 so far. I am cooking, if I do say so myself. Can I make it 4? Can I make it 4? My race winner is one of the McLarens, obviously, because they should be clear. Not just in qualifying pace, but absolutely in race pace. Is it Lando? Is it Oscar? I'm going for Lando Norris. I think, and I don't know why I think this, and I've not vetted this with anyone who's really in the know, but I feel like around a circuit like Bahrain, a bit more slow speed, I think that plays into Lando's U-shape corner approach more. I think around a track like Suzuka, the more high speed, I think Oscar's V-shape perhaps works a bit. But I just feel like around a track like Bahrain, I'm backing Lando. Around a track like Suzuka, I'm backing Oscar. Out of the two. That could be complete gas. But we'll see. Bro, there's actually no evidence that Oscar is better. There's no evidence. I don't know, Frank. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if there's no evidence. Lando's clear favourite for this circuit. Oscar may be decent, but I expect a Lando P1, Oscar P2. Tuner, I agree. I think Lando will have the edge on Oscar this weekend. I think it will be very, very close between the two of them. They're clearly, in terms of one lap pace, absolutely on a level where there's like nothing between the two of them, which is exciting. And we'll see how that goes in qualifying. I think you can overtake around Bahrain, and you know, when they've got the two drivers up front, McLaren are going to have to find a way to, you know, not let them get too hot-headed and start crashing into each other, because again, this is a huge opportunity. There's more to lose when you've got a driver like Max nipping at your heels, and you know these changes are coming to both the Red Bull car and the rules from around 9. There's that pressure. There is that pressure, that expectation. I'm going Lando. I think Lando's going to win this weekend. Can I make it 4 out of 4 correct race win predictions? You know it makes sense. But what about you? Well, 1,291 of you voted. Thank you very much for voting on the poll. If you haven't seen the poll, make sure you either follow me on Twitter at TOMMO'S or subscribe to this YouTube channel. And then you'll see the community posts where I post the polls. So then you can get involved. All right. We do polls pre-race and post-race. Bangers and clangers predictions, bangers and clangers decisions, I guess. It's the kind of two. Your race winner for the 2025, keep trying to say 24, Bahrain Grand Prix. Yuki is on the poll. I've just not moved him from... He's still alongside Liam. No, sorry. He's still alongside Isaac in the poll thing rather than being alongside Max. But he is there. Oscar Piastri. I don't know why I did a dramatic gap there. Did you take the new rear wing technical directive into consideration for... Yeah, but McLaren didn't have to change anything with their car. It was only Alpine and Haas that needed to change anything with their cars. So I don't think that rear wing change in China has changed anything from a McLaren point of view. You've gone Oscar. 34% of the votes. 31% Lando. 11% Nico Hulkenberg is a choice. And you tell me, right? You tell me why Nico Hulkenberg's got 145 votes for race winner. Listen. Game's the game, right? The chance of nothing unlikely happening in life is in itself unlikely. So maybe that is a worldie of a foreshadow that Nico won't only just get his first podium, but his first win in F1 this weekend. And then 9% Charles Leclerc. Please, Ferrari, just like Charles cooked in Suzuka, and it was very easy to overlook. But Charles essentially did to Mercedes what Max did to the McLarens, because the Mercedes was the quicker package than Ferrari, but Charles maximised qualifying and didn't put a foot wrong in the race. Charles did bits, absolutely. Do you reckon, Rab? Antonelli bang. Interesting. I mean, he's been cooking. And again, think how good Antonelli will be when he's not got homework to do, when he can just focus on racing and not whatever he's doing at college. You know? Who needs algebra when you've got DRS? Bosh. Right. So, your race winner is Oscar Piastri. My race winner is Lando Norris. Okay. Banger drive. For me, he cooked in practice. He cooked around here last year. I'm going Carlos Sainz. It's been a challenging start to the year. I think he knows Bahrain well. Again, he plenty of testing laps. I think his experience disadvantage in that car relative to Alex will be less punished here, and he's growing with every Grand Prix. He was actually pretty quick in the race around Suzuka. It was just, you know, if you were out of position, and obviously you got that grid place drop as well from qualifying, that kind of ruined your chances. So I think Sainz, I wouldn't be surprised if Sainz is there, if not quicker than Albon this weekend. Around a track like Bahrain, I fully back Carlos Sainz to do a fantastic job. Again, cooked here last year, was strong in testing. Test was really strong, I think this year for Sainz in that Williams. I'm going Vamos this weekend. And your banger drive is Yuki Tsunoda. 17% of you went with Yuki. 14% Liam Lawson. So these two still cleaning up the votes in terms of banger drives. Anyway, still plenty of belief in Yuki, plenty of belief in Liam. 13% Max Verstappen. And then 7%, exactly the same votes. Let me have a look at the numbers. It was 85 votes each for Carlos Sainz and George Russell. So they both scored the exact same amount, which was 7%. Yeah, I mean, I expect more from Liam than we saw in Suzuka. As much as that is a track that is obviously he's literally jumping straight back into that car that isn't completely foreign to him. But again, it was weird with Lawson because obviously he's jumped in on Yuki's side of the garage at Racing Bulls. So his old performance engineer is now with Isaac. So you know what I mean? It's like the wrong way around. I reckon Liam will do well in Bahrain. And then obviously Max, 13% of the vote. You've always got to expect Max to cook. But the fact that Max got 13% of the vote but didn't even get top 4 for a race winner is kind of interesting. Max actually got 6.1% of the vote for a race winner. Only 78% of people voted Max to win the race. But where's he in the... He is... Oh, no. I messed up. Max did not get 13% of the vote. It was actually Kimi Antonelli. Just read that VER as ANT and we'll just move on. All right? We'll just move on. Otherwise, all of the names are they correct? Are all the other names correct? Close enough. Cool. Right. Let's move on. To Clanger Driver. My vote for Clanger Driver is Yuki Tsunoda. Unfortunately, I hate to say it. However, no preparation in this car. Bahrain is a difficult, tricky circuit to get on top of. I'm saying Yuki. Yuki. I think it's going to be a difficult weekend for him. I do. You look at everyone else who's got all this preparation around Bahrain in their car. Sorry, it's not popular, but I'm going Yuki. I predicted him banger last weekend. Didn't happen. I'm predicting clanger this weekend. I hope it doesn't happen. But I'm going with my head, not my heart on this one. So I'm going Yuki. Why is Bahrain tricky? I mean, Bahrain's a very, very... I mean, have you seen turn... what is it? Turn 1, 2, 3, 4... Turn 4 is an absolute bastard. It's off camber, kind of drawing you into the... And there's a lot of tricky braking zones. Obviously, that turn, going into turn 10, when you're braking while having steering lock on. There's so many opportunities to get it wrong in Bahrain. It's a naughty little track in a bad way. So I'm going Yuki Tsunoda clanger. That's what I'm going. And your clanger is Lance Stroll. 17% of the vote for Sir Lancelot. You just, even when he was cooking, you were voting him clanger. Now he's stopped cooking, you're also voting him clanger. I mean, he did have a stinker in Suzuka, but will he bounce back? Will he bounce back? Remains to be seen. 16% Jack Doohan. Big weekend for Jack Doohan. Massive weekend for Jack Doohan. Gotta say. 8% Liam Lawson. 7% Landon Rice. Your clanger drive votes. Banger team, I'm going Williams. I think Carlos is going to cook. I think Alex will be chefing it up right next to him. I'm looking forward to seeing Williams capitalise and do well around this track with both of their drivers. Double point score for Williams is my prediction this weekend. And your banger team is McLaren, 26% of the vote. Just ahead of Ferrari with 24, 17% Mercedes, 13% Williams. Thank you, Luto, by the way, for gifting 5 memberships. Appreciate that. Very kind of you. British bias, McLaren British bias, absolutely. 17% of you went Mercedes. I'm not so sure about, again, the temperature. The higher temperature in Bahrain worries me from Mercedes' point of view because that seems to be their Achilles heel. When it's absolutely Baltic, it comes alive. When it's boiling, it is not. Quite the opposite. And then 13% Williams. And then finally, clanger team. Red Bull Racing is my prediction. I think it's going to be a difficult weekend for Red Bull. I think Yuki's going to struggle. I don't think Max is going to be in the top 3. As amazing as the performance was last weekend, that car just can't manage its tyres. Now, in anywhere near what the McLaren can do, I also expect Ferrari to take a step forward around Bahrain. And maybe even George and Mercedes. I feel like there's a, Verstappen, Antonelli, George fight going on here this weekend. Perhaps behind both Ferraris. Wouldn't be surprised. There you go. Those are my race winner, banger, clanger. Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, Yuki Tsunoda, Williams, Red Bull Racing. And finally, your clanger, Alpine. 24% of the vote. 19% Aston Martin, 13% Sauber, 10% Ferrari, which means your race winner is Oscar, banger Yuki, clanger Lance, banger McLaren, clanger Alpine. So, we've gone all different. We've gone all different this weekend. Who will win? We'll find out in the post-race Chinwag on Sunday after the Bahrain Grand Prix. Okay? Where's the French belief? Sacre bleu. Indeed, Christopher. Indeed. Right, okay. Excellent work. Team by team, briefly, just to go over things. Aston Martin last year around Bahrain qualified quite well, did Fernando, but fell back in the race. I have little to no expectations from Aston Martin this Grand Prix. I'm not expecting anything at all. So we'll move on to Red Bull. Look, I do think Suzuka, until they bring an upgrade to that car, which again is expected, maybe Miami, but probably more likely at Imola round 7, then, where there's normal levels of tyre deg, I don't think the Red Bull's going to be quick enough to beat the McLarens. Max could out-qualify them, maybe, but over a race distance, McLaren 1-2 at Bahrain is surely a done thing, surely a done deal. I just until they bring that change, it's going to be difficult, even for Max over a race distance. He could definitely sneak a P3, absolutely. You wouldn't put that past Max at all, but I probably would put him like P4, P5 this weekend, I think. It's a huge weekend for McLaren because if they don't capitalise, then that boy's going to be very happy. Mercedes, look, again, Kimi was really strong in Suzuka, bodes really well. George should really have finished fourth, had the pace too, but got caught behind Leclerc, and Leclerc did the job on him in qualifying. George just couldn't quite sort out his window for the tyres in that final qualifying session. But yeah, very, very promising from Kimi Antonelli. Very promising. Very promising. Williams, what can I say? I've already waxed lyrical. I expect big things. I expect big things from Vamos this weekend. I expect big things from Alex every weekend. Alex every weekend. They're going to cook. They're going to cook. But not as much as McLaren. McLaren have to capitalise, have to take advantage of this advantage that they have right now, because it won't last the whole season. I don't believe it will. McLaren 1-2. Just don't fumble this position. Because I just feel like, look, my conspiracy theory, okay, and this is very conspiratorial, okay. There's no evidence for this. The reason I don't think McLaren tried anything like Lando going for an overcut on Max, like going further and then boom boom, is because the ultimate risk to McLaren, because I don't think an overcut was ever going to get past Max. You could try it, right? See if it works, and it wouldn't have worked, right? Because the undercut, it wasn't powerful in Suzuka, but it was still there. I think if they'd have sent Lando long, right? And again, they couldn't box him when they boxed Oscar because Behrman would have been in the way. So there was no real point. So I kind of get why they boxed Oscar first, because Oscar did have a space between him and Behrman. He had like 2.5 seconds. So he wasn't held up by Behrman, not really. I think they were concerned about Lando coming out then behind Oscar and having a driver situation on their hands. And I think the reason that they didn't ask Lando and Oscar to swap positions is that I don't think Lando would have done it. Like, honestly, I think as much as Max was amazing in Suzuka, of course he was. That goes without question. And Max, he's the best driver in F1. He will maximise each and every weekend. This McLaren car, in fact, let's do a poll. Let's do a poll. Who? I want to. This is interesting. Who should Lando be more concerned about in the 2025 drivers title fight? And this is, I'm thinking, I'd maybe we'll see after Bahrain. I might do my video on this, my next video on this, almost like weighing up who he should be more concerned about in the title fight. And no, Lance is not an option. Should he be more concerned about Verstappen or Piastri? Because the result for Lando, him second, Max first, Oscar fourth, versus Oscar maybe first, Max second, Lando third. Because Lando couldn't get past Max. We know that. He had the opportunity to, he couldn't. I think from Lando's driver's title championship point of view, it's better that Max wins and he's second and Oscar's third than Oscar wins, Max second, his third. In that instance, if McLaren had asked Lando, I don't know, but I reckon if McLaren had asked Lando, move out the way so Oscar can have a go at Max, he wouldn't have done it. And also, if that is how he had operated in that moment, I would have completely respected that and backed it, because, well, you know that if you ask that of Verstappen, if you ask that of Hamilton, if you ask that of Schumacher, there's no way. Oh yeah, let your most, because I think Piastri, and you think so, just 53% of you saying, or 52, so it's pretty 50-50 to be fair, of who you think Lando should be more concerned about in the championship fight. Slight advantage to Oscar. I think Oscar, I do. Over 24 races, given, again, Suzuka was, I think, a bit of an outlier in terms of conditions. Australia rained, which most races don't rain. And Max obviously comes alive in the rain. But most Grand Prix this year will be in, like, normal conditions. dry conditions typically. I don't think it doesn't serve Lando to let Oscar have a go at the win when Oscar, in my opinion, is his most the most dangerous championship rival to Lando. I think is Oscar, and I think again, in my conspiracy, is that McLaren didn't even bother asking that of Lando because they had a pretty good idea that it'd tell him where to shove it and wouldn't do it. And they didn't want that to be broadcast on the radio because then that would create a whole media thing and I'd be making videos about it and blah, blah, blah. You know? That's what I think. That's what I think. But yeah, 55% of you think Lando should be more concerned about Piastri, but 45% of you think Verstappen. I get it. I get why it's close, but I do think Oscar. I do think Oscar, in my opinion, for what it's worth. Cool. Right. Racing Bulls. Hopefully Liam Cook's Isaac is doing so well so far this season. Really got a lot of time for Isaac, actually. He seems like a really sound kid. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him around Bahrain. Obviously, plenty of experience relative to his complete lack of experience around any other track because of the preseason test. So, Isaac, I'm expecting big things this weekend, fella. And Liam, look, Liam's got to settle back in. I think Isaac's, even when, Isaac out-qualified Yuki. Not going to, over their qualifying sessions together, Isaac had the slight edge on Yuki. So Liam's got a big challenge here because obviously if Liam can't match, if not beat Hadjar, that's tough, man. To get dropped by Red Bull and then to not be able to beat the new rookie in Isaac. It's big for Liam. Liam's got to get his head down and get back up to speed and get outperforming Isaac pronto because we know how quick Red Bull move and we know Lindblad's waiting. And it does feel like it's probably going to be a toss-up between Lawson and Hadjar to make way for Lindblad next season for 26. Yeah, is it pronounced Isaac or Isaac? You would think that Christian would know. I'm pretty sure it's Isaac. The only person I've heard say Isaac is Christian. But then he's literally team principal. But I'm sure Isaac says, because there's that, what's the clip last year? When there's that, Isaac Hadjar. And you play a clip and then you just put Isaac Hadjar. If you're chronically online, you'll know what I mean. And he pronounced his own name as Isaac Hadjar. So yeah, no, it's definitely Isaac. Christian just doesn't know the name of his drivers. Haas, Behrman's cooking good. Obviously, Bahrain, they only did long runs with Esteban and Ollie. So who knows where their one-lap pace is going to be. The floor change seemed to help in Suzuka. Obviously, this is a very, very different challenge, Bahrain, to Suzuka. Probably a bit more in line. No, Australia's a quick track. I don't know. I don't know with Haas. I really don't, actually. I think probably Haas and Ollie overperformed in Suzuka. Probably weren't, Ollie put them in that position by getting into Q3, but I think that was the absolute ceiling going on there. So, shout out Declan Rice, by the way. West Ham taught him all he knows. Unbelievable. Ferrari, come on, Ferrari, please find something. Whatever this 1/10 deficit Lewis is feeling in his car, they're conservative on the ride heights. They had Charles and Lewis basically rally driving on the what's the lap after you finish the race and then you go round? What is that called? It's not the reconnaissance lap. It's not the out lap. What is that lap called? Whatever it is. They had them fully off-roaded cool-down lap. Oh yeah, obviously it's the cool-down lap. Idiot. Because I'm thinking of cool-down room. Cool-down. I used to have a podcast called The Cool Down. Hilarious. Anyway, yeah, just to pick up as much tyre marbles and dirt and stuff on their tyres so that they would pass the weight checks. Yeah, I get why Ferrari would be extra conservative, and they obviously just need to try and find this middle ground, because obviously you set the car up for qualifying, and then that's what you have to run in the race as well. So you would like to think once Ferrari can get back to, they definitely overcorrected, it feels like. Yeah, Charles still finished P4, but they overcorrected on the ride height thing, understandably for Suzuka. If they can now just kind of get back to that middle ground where they're not on the raggedy edge and getting disqualified, but also they're not going, setting it up like a bloody Range Rover, then we're good. We're good. No, I'm not a gooner. I just said West Ham taught him all he knows because I'm West Ham. Okay, and turns out 105 million was daylight robbery for Declan Rice. We should have got more for him. Alpine. Okay, Alpine, I want to talk a little bit about Jack Doohan because, yes, the crash that he had in FP2, I still, understanding it as much as the information that has come out about it, it is definitely, very much on both parties. Alpine should have seen that he wasn't turning off his DRS in the sim and his first push laps in FP2 and told him otherwise, but they didn't. But then also Jack is the driver. You would think he would be, I don't know, talking about these things with the other drivers, the other 19 drivers, and just understanding what everyone else is doing. And when he was on the sidelines in FP1, looking at Pierre's data and seeing, Pierre's turning off the DRS. You have to, I think, put culpability on both sides. However, that really hasn't helped his position, which we know is tenuous. And we know Colapinto was practicing around Monza last weekend. He wasn't in Suzuka. So if Jack had to sit out that race, it would have been Hirakawa replacing him, who, funnily enough, Hirakawa is doing FP1 for Haas in Bahrain this weekend. So there you go. This is a huge weekend for Jack. He had practice around Bahrain, so he knows this circuit well. It's now or never. I really do think that if Jack stinks this weekend, he'll be out. I think this is a massive weekend for him. He needs to be there with Pierre on pace. He needs to be there with Pierre one lap pace and race pace. Because we know Colapinto's there breathing down his neck. We know the outright pace Jack has shown. But after that shunt and just is he taking too many risks maybe because he knows that the seat's on the line? But I do think that it's kind of now or never. It's crunch time for Doohan. It's crunch time for Doohan. And look, do I agree with that? No, I think you should get half the season. I think you give your driver half a season minimum, whether that's Liam Lawson, whether that's Jack Doohan, and then you want to try something else. Cool. Well, you do 12 races for one, 12 races for the other, and then you've got a decent sample set. Of course, the first driver gets pre-season testing, so they get a bit more of an advantage, but you're settled into the season by the time the other guy gets in. Franco's doing TPC running. I think they should give Jack 12 races, but I think if he has a bad Bahrain Grand Prix, he will only end up having 4 race weekends. And I think Colapinto will replace him for Saudi. Or they'll just give Jack the rest of the triple header and then they'll pull him out and put Colapinto in for Miami. That's what I think. Yeah. Outbreak, you said the same. Doohan will get dropped after Jeddah, my predictions. But we'll see. We'll see. Time will tell. Time will tell on that front. I hope for Jack, because again, he's shown potential. Colapinto, of course, has as well. And Colapinto absolutely merits an opportunity from what we've seen from him, how close he was to Alex at times last year. Yes, he was a bit crashy, but that raw potential is there. And that fan base, that very, very marketable fan base is there and waiting. So I absolutely understand if it happens, why it would happen. But I just hope that we get to see a good enough sample of Jack that we can know where he stands, and it gives Jack an opportunity. You know what? Like, okay, fine. If maybe Cadillac want to pick me up as a reserve, or whatever opportunities might present themselves to Jack doing. Based on 3 races, I wouldn't swap out Jack. No, I think Jack's ultimate pace over a lap has been very close to Pierre. And his race execution, actually in Suzuka, his race execution was pretty good. He made that soft to hard strategy work where Stroll couldn't. Stroll had to do a 2-stop. But Jack was the only other driver to start on softs, and he made that work. And he finished, he wasn't, he was falling back from Pierre at the end, but again, he was on much older hard tyres. So I do think Jack deserves more time, but I don't think he'll get it. That's the problem for him. And then finally, Sauber. I mean, 11% of you predicted Nico Hülkenberg to win this weekend, so perhaps. And I think it's easy to see Behrman and Antonelli, Hadjar putting it in the points and doing a great job. Bortoleto is every bit as talented as those lads. I believe that firmly, but he is in less competitive machinery, so don't let Gabriel slip through your line of thought, I guess. He didn't have a great, he lost position at the start in Suzuka, but I do think Bortoleto, within a tenth of Hülkenberg again in qualifying, it's the closest head-to-head so far in terms of average delta between Hülkenberg and Bortoleto. So don't forget about Gabby, because that kid's quick. And we know how quick Hülkenberg is over a lap, by the way, as well. So, rapid. Ruben, you caught the Tommo live. Well done. And Cameron, mate, I'm gonna have to pay some of that super chat back when we get a drink next time, fella. But appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much. Very, very kind of you. I'll definitely pay that one back, fella, when we catch up next. Cool. Okay. 47 minutes. Couple of any live chat bits. We've got FP1s this weekend. Say Hirakawa's going to be in the Haas. Bogdanovic is in the Ferrari, I want to say. I didn't actually check beforehand. What else? Is there anything else? Is there anything else I'm missing going into this weekend in Bahrain? I think that's it in terms of FP1 runs. Iwasa in Red Bull. Really? Nice. Iwasa's getting a run out in Max's Red Bull in FP1. Nice. Yeah, because of course this year they have to do 4 FP1 rookie run outs instead of 2 in previous years. So that's kind of cool. I like that. And Dino's very interesting. He made a big impression when he jumped into F2 at the end of last year. Some really good performances. Luke Brown in the Williams. Yeah. Felipe in the Aston Martin as well. Jeez. Mate, there's rookie FP1s knocking about all over the place. Love it. I'm glad you like the Cape Town stream, Danny. Appreciate that. Cool. Right. That's that. I'm going to wrap this. Thank you all for joining live on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, however you are consuming this podcast. Please don't forget to like, rate, comment. All you in live chat, don't forget to drop a comment underneath as well. Would really appreciate it. Helps the algorithm, helps get the podcast out to the world. And actually, yeah, did I miss any super chats? Thank you for reminding me. Ragav, thank you very much for reminding me, because I did. Oh wow, there's a few super chats. Thank you again to Luto for gifting 5 memberships. Appreciate that. Thank you, Ragav, as well, for your super chat. Yuki's last reel on Insta had so much aura. I'll have to check that out. Actually, I've got an upcoming Instagram post. What is my Instagram? I think my Instagram's Tommo McCluskey as well. I've got an upcoming Instagram post that has a bit of aura itself. It's coming soon. All right, so go follow me on Instagram. Thank you, Isaac, as well. Ferrari looked like McLaren did before Miami last year. Do you agree? Ferrari looked like McLaren did before Miami last year. Do you agree? I mean, yeah. I mean, look, one upgrade can turn things around. Ferrari, obviously, the whole ride height thing is a problem that they're having to manage outside of adding performance to their car. I see where you get coming from, Isaac. I do see where you're coming from. The thing is, you've got, you know, it was Red Bull who were clear last year, and then McLaren made that clear step up at Miami, and then it was kind of Red Bull and McLaren clear. Right now, McLaren are clear. In the right circumstances, Max can make that Red Bull look close, but it's not really that close in terms of the total car package. So, I mean, I believed a lot in Ferrari going into this season. That belief is absolutely being challenged. Just give him the car, Fred. Give him the car and let him cook. And thank you, Ragav, again. Quick word on those two absolute belters from Rice. Rice, baby. I mean, there's top bins, and then there's that second free kick, which the bins were unmatched on that one. Chuff for him. Got a lot of love for Deck. As much as he left us, we got 105 million for him, and I'm glad to see him killing it on the top stage, which ultimately is what we would never have given him. So, fair play to him. Right, I'm done. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate you all taking the time. My name's Tom. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.